Scott Swift's deeply emotional moment, watching Travis ask for Taylor's hand in marriage. It was a cool autumn evening, the kind of night where the air was crisp and the stars seemed just a little bit brighter. The Swift family had gathered at a secluded vineyard in the rolling hills of California, the perfect setting for a family celebration. But this evening wasn't just any ordinary gathering, it was one of the most significant moments in Scott Swift's life. Scott had always prided himself on being protective of his daughter Taylor, his little girl, the one who had grown up under the spotlight of fame, but never let it dim her warmth. Taylor had always been his pride, the girl who could light up any room with her laugh, and the girl who would always be his baby no matter how much time passed. But tonight, something monumental was unfolding, and Scott knew this moment would forever change everything. As he stood by the wooden balcony of the vineyard's grand estate, Scott gazed out over the lush grapevines, the moonlight casting a soft glow on the land below. His mind raced as he tried to focus on the peaceful surroundings, but his thoughts kept drifting back to Taylor. She was inside the house, preparing for what was about to happen, a proposal she had no idea was coming. Scott's heart thudded in his chest as he thought about the man who had swept his daughter off her feet, Travis Kelce. Scott had heard so much about Travis, the football star, the charming personality, the guy with the infectious smile who had charmed everyone around him, including Taylor. He knew the rumors, he saw the way Taylor lit up when she talked about him, and although a part of him had always been cautious of the attention that came with being in the public eye, he knew deep down that Travis had become someone who truly cared for his daughter. But still, the question lingered, was Travis ready to make such a commitment? Scott didn't like to admit it, but he wasn't entirely sure anyone would ever be good enough for Taylor. She was his little girl, after all. And no one could protect her like he could. As a father, he had to trust that she was making the right choice, even though the thought of losing her to someone else was enough to tear him apart. As the evening progressed, the family moved into the grand room of the estate where a small, intimate gathering had been arranged. There was laughter in the air, and the atmosphere was light, but Scott could feel an undercurrent of tension. This wasn't just any celebration, it was a pivotal moment in his daughter's life. He had spent years guiding her, watching her grow, and now she was about to take the next step in her journey. Suddenly, Scott's phone buzzed, pulling him from his thoughts. He glanced at the screen and saw a message from his wife, Andrea. "He's about to do it. You're going to want to be in the room for this." Scott's heart skipped a beat. His mind instantly flashed to Taylor, so full of life, so full of love. She had always been the center of his world, and now, someone else was preparing to ask for her hand in marriage. He took a deep breath, trying to steady himself, but the weight of the moment pressed down on him like a heavy fog. He walked into the grand room, his heart pounding. The space was softly lit, the flickering candles casting gentle shadows along the walls. There, standing in the center of the room, was Travis, dressed in a sleek, dark suit that made him look every bit the confident man he was. But it wasn't the suit or the confidence that caught Scott's attention, it was the way Travis held himself, his nervousness barely hidden behind a calm exterior. Travis looked up when he saw Scott enter the room, his eyes locking with Scott's for a brief moment before he quickly turned his gaze back to the floor. Scott knew that look all too well, the uncertainty of someone who was about to ask for a piece of your heart. He could feel the weight of the question hanging in the air, and his emotions stirred. "Mr. Swift," Travis said, his voice a mix of confidence and vulnerability, "I know this is probably the most important conversation I'm ever going to have in my life, and I don't take it lightly. I love your daughter more than anything in this world. I've never met anyone like her, someone so kind, so genuine, so full of life and love. She makes me want to be a better person, every single day. I can't imagine my life without her." Scott swallowed hard, his emotions rising to the surface. The words were heartfelt, and he could see the sincerity in Travis's eyes. But it didn't make it any easier. He'd been a father for a long time, but this was a moment like no other. Taylor was his world, and now, another man was about to make a promise to her. "Travis," Scott began, his voice thick with emotion, "I've watched my daughter grow into the amazing woman she is today. I've seen her navigate challenges, chase her dreams, and accomplish things that most people only dream of. But through all of that, she's never been as happy as she is with you. I can see it in her eyes, the way she lights up when she talks about you. And as her father, that means everything to me." Travis nodded, his expression serious as he stepped forward. "I don't want to just be a part of her life, Mr. Swift. I want to be the person who stands by her side, who supports her, and who loves her with everything I have. I want to build a life with her, and I can't imagine anything more important than asking for her hand in marriage." Scott felt a wave of emotions crash over him. There was something so raw and honest in Travis's words, and it struck Scott to his core. He had always feared this moment, feared that he would never be ready to let go. But looking at Travis, he realized that this was not about losing his daughter, it was about her finding someone who would love her just as fiercely as he did. Travis reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, velvet box. He opened it to reveal a sparkling diamond ring, its brilliance catching the light in a way that made the entire room seem to glow. Scott's heart nearly stopped as he looked at the ring, knowing exactly what it represented. "Mr. Swift," Travis said, his voice barely a whisper now, "will you give me the honor of asking for your daughter's hand in marriage?" Scott felt a tear slip down his cheek, the overwhelming emotions too much to hold back. He looked at Travis, and for the first time, he saw the man that Taylor had fallen in love with. This wasn't just a football player, a celebrity, or someone living in the limelight. This was a man who truly understood the depth of what he was asking for. And for that, Scott knew he could trust him with his daughter's heart. He swallowed hard, fighting the lump in his throat, and took a deep breath before replying, "Travis, I can see that you love my daughter, and that's all I've ever wanted for her. If she's found someone who will treat her with respect, love her unconditionally, and stand by her side through everything, then I'm ready to let go. You have my blessing." The weight of Scott's words seemed to hang in the air for a moment, and then, Travis's face broke into a relieved smile. He stepped forward and shook Scott's hand firmly, his grip strong and genuine. Just then, the door to the room opened, and Taylor walked in, her eyes immediately locking with Travis's. She froze when she saw the ring, her breath catching in her throat. "Travis, what is this?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. Travis smiled softly, taking her hand in his. "Taylor Swift," he began, "will you marry me?" Tears welled up in Taylor's eyes as she looked from the ring to Travis, and then to her father, who was standing quietly in the background, his face a mixture of pride and emotion. She could feel the weight of the moment, the love that surrounded her, and the certainty that this was where her heart belonged. "Yes," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "Yes, I will marry you." And in that moment, as Scott stood silently, watching his daughter embrace the love of her life, he realized that although it was hard to let go, it was the right thing to do. Taylor had found her person, and he couldn't have been more proud of the woman she had become. Scott smiled to himself, the tears flowing freely now, as he watched Taylor and Travis share their first kiss as an engaged couple. It was a new chapter for them, and as a father, Scott knew that he would always be there for his daughter, no matter where life took her. But for now, this was her moment, and he couldn't have been happier for her.